Welcome back to the deep dive. If you thought you knew Earth's geography, maybe think again. We are taking a bit of a shortcut today, past the usual textbooks, and plunging straight into the coldest, most, well, mysterious continent out there, Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica. It's always had this aura of secrecy, hasn't it? And the materials we've looked at for today, they suggest that beneath, what, 2 miles of solid ice, there might be remnants of ancient settlements, sophisticated ones, maybe even evidence of technology that frankly makes you question the whole timeline of human history.
Right.
Or maybe not human history at all.
Right. So this deep dive, it's based on reports compiled by folks like Louis B. Vega and others. They're looking at satellite images showing weird anomalies, military operations that sound honestly like science fiction, and these claims of massive engineering hidden under all that ice. And when you pull all this stuff together, it kind of gives a new twist to that quote from Admiral Byrd. There are deep wells of strength that are never used.
Exactly. And we're going to try and connect that, quote, those deep wells of strength directly to maybe a deep well of, well, something buried under the ice. I mean, think about it. You find ancient pyramids on every other continent. So these reports are asking, why not Antarctica? Our mission today, really, is to unpack the claims versus, the reality about these supposed structures and all the intense conspiracy stuff, Nazis, UFOs, you name it, that seems to stick to this place while, giving you the context behind the arguments.
Okay, let's unpack that. 2 miles of ice. That's immense. How does anyone, investigator or otherwise, even start looking for huge structures under that much ice? You can't just, drill holes everywhere.
Well, the sources point to a couple of key bits of technology. First, you've got the everyday stuff, like Google Earth. That's where some amateur investigators apparently spotted things on the surface. But second, there's the more high-tech gear NASA uses, specifically something called ATLS, the Advanced Topographic Laser Altimeter System.
ATLS. Okay, tell us a bit more about that for, listeners who aren't familiar. Sounds pretty technical.
It is, yeah. Basically, ATLS uses really powerful lasers. It maps the Earth's surface in incredible detail. But the key thing here is it can apparently see through things. Thick ice, cloud cover, it maps the terrain underneath. Now, its main job is monitoring polar ice thickness, looking for changes, melting, that sort of thing.
Okay. So NASA's looking for climate change signals, basically, but the claim is they're accidentally mapping ancient ruins.
That's precisely the argument in these reports.
Yeah.
They say that the infrared images from ATLS have shown, apparently quite clearly, traces of old settlements under the ice, structures with, very geometric shapes. And the authors interpret this as either ancient human engineering or possibly even alien design. It feeds into that idea of a single shared sophisticated origin for pyramid building cultures around the world.
And this is where it gets really specific and maybe sensational because we have coordinates for the most famous one, right? This Spanish investigator, Vicente Fuentes, supposedly found it using Google Earth back in mid-March 2016.
That's the one. It's in the Ellsworth Mountains, part of the Heritage Range. We can put the exact coordinates in the show notes if you want to look it up. But the scale, that's the really striking part. You compare it to, say, the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt that's about 481 feet high. This Antarctic peak, or structure, is allegedly 4,150 feet high, so nearly 10 times taller.
Wow, 10 times. It's staggering. But is it definitely a structure, or could it just be, a mountain that happens to look like a pyramid? Nature does weird things.
And that's the core debate in the source material, absolutely.
Yeah.
The scientific explanation, the counter perspective, is that it's likely something called a nunatak. A nunatak is basically a rock peak, often pyramid-shaped, sticking up through a glacier or ice sheet. It's a known geological thing. And it's not even a new idea there. The first so-called Pyramid Mountain in Antarctica was spotted way back by the British Antarctic expedition, like 1910 to 1913.
Okay, so you've got the nunatak explanation, natural geology, right alongside this idea that it's just the tip of a massive buried complex. It forces you, the listener, to kind of weigh the evidence, doesn't it? Which narrative seems more plausible? But let's shift gears a bit from geography to history, or maybe hidden history, because the reports pivot pretty quickly to the post-World War II era and some really wild claims about Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd, yeah. Obviously a famous explorer, a hero.
Right.
There's a commemoration for him at the South Pole Station, Amundsen Scott. But the conspiracy theories go way beyond polar exploration. Some narratives allege Byrd had, direct encounters with aliens, even found crystal cities under the ice.
Okay, wow. And this connects directly to Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
What was the official story for that U.S. Navy mission right after the war? And how does the, let's call it the counter-narrative, differ?
Officially, Operation High Jump, launched near the end of WWII, was about establishing a research base and, significantly, rooting out any rumored secret Nazi bases left over in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Standard military cleanup, sort of. The conspiracy narrative, though, which claims to be based on leaked documents, maybe some eyewitness accounts, it paints a very different picture. It suggests the mission was actually a total disaster. Not because of Nazis, but something else entirely.
A disaster. How bad are we talking?
According to this collection of sources, the U.S. Navy Armada, a pretty significant force, was supposedly devastated. Not by leftover Nazi tech, but by, and this is the quote, alien UFO flying discs that apparently came out of the water. The reports insist the fleet retreated in a hurry, suffered heavy losses, ships, lives, the works.
Hold on. Are we seriously talking about a massive naval battle between the U.S. Navy and UFOs right after WWII, something completely erased from mainstream history books? How do these sources explain how something that big could be kept quiet?
Well, the material suggests this alleged battle was the wake-up call. The moment world powers supposedly realized what kind of advanced suppressed technology might actually be down there. And this links directly to the Nazis, because another part of the theory is that Nazi scientists who were supposedly deep into occult and paranormal research didn't just disappear. The idea is they transferred some really advanced, possibly alien-derived technology to secret bases in Antarctica as the Third Reich collapsed.
So the reports frame this supposed battle as literally the first ever recorded battle that was direct between humans and aliens. They even call it the first cosmic world war on Earth in the modern era. So in this view, that event is the reason Antarctica became so restricted, so locked down.
That's the core argument, yeah. That alleged catastrophic failure provides the motive, the reason for all the subsequent treaties and international agreements that tightly control access and research there. The narrative basically requires extreme secrecy afterwards.
Speaking of secrecy, let's look at the modern day. What evidence do these sources point to for ongoing information suppression? Especially when, you try to use digital tools like Google Earth to look at these places yourself. Pixelation comes up a lot.
It's a recurring theme, definitely. The sources mention several areas, often right next to these anomalies, that are just blurred out, for instance, near that Fuentes pyramid discovery, in a place called Neptune's Range. There's supposedly a huge complex of buildings or structures, and if you look on Google Earth, it's conspicuously pixelated, wiped clean.
But hang on, is the claim definitely censorship of alien bases? Or could it just be, blurring out sensitive human scientific stations? Military stuff, maybe.
Well, according to these reports, it's absolutely censorship, aimed at hiding the artificial nature of these things. They point to other spots, too, like an area between Strand Moraine and Cape Chocolate. Supposedly shows clear ground markings, maybe structures, possibly design work, also blurred. And then there's the really famous one, that massive, supposedly 14-mile-long structure, completely obscured on public satellite views.
14 miles long, that's city scale almost. But the anomalies aren't just digital blurs, right? The material also mentions a physical structure, a huge entrance.
Yes, this alleged entrance. It's located about 185 miles from the Russian Mirny station. The coordinates are out there, you can find them. And what people describe seeing is this massive tunnel entrance leading down underground. And the thing that makes it seem engineered, according to the sources, is what looks like a huge metal canopy over the entrance. They stress it looks big enough for something like a C-130 transport plane, a huge U.S. military aircraft, to fly right in and out.
A C-130. Those things are enormous. That really puts the scale of these claimed underground facilities into perspective. And the engineering feat required to build something like that under miles of ice, it's staggering to think about.
And this whole suppression idea, it gets reinforced in these narratives by some pretty weird high-profile visits. The reports make a point of mentioning quick trips down there by people like former Secretary of State John Kerry, their Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill. There were even rumors President Obama made a detour there during a trip to South America.
Right, the visitor list is intriguing. And then there's the Buzz Aldrin incident. That got a lot of attention. Former astronaut, moonwalker, also a known Freemason. December 2016. What's the story there?
Yeah, that's a big one in these circles. The claim is, while Aldrin was actually at the South Pole, he posted this really alarming message on social media, something like, "We are all in danger, it is evil itself," and then almost immediately the post vanished, and he was medically evacuated, airlifted out because of a sudden medical emergency. So naturally, this incident gets pointed to as proof that people at that level know what's under the ice, and it's something terrifying.
Okay, so let's try and tie this together. We've got the giant pyramid claim, the alleged war with UFOs, the blurred satellite images, this huge C-130-sized tunnel, the strange VIP visits, the Aldrin tweet. According to the authors writing about all this, what does it all mean for the big picture, for our understanding of history?
Well, it loops back to that idea of a common origin for ancient civilizations. Some theories propose Antarctica might actually be the legendary lost continent of Lemuria.
Lemuria. Okay, for listeners maybe not familiar, briefly, what's Lemuria supposed to be?
Lemuria is sort of like Atlantis, a hypothesized lost landmass, supposedly in the Pacific or Indian Ocean, home to an advanced ancient civilization. The idea is it sank, or maybe got covered in ice after some kind of global cataclysm, like a sudden shift in the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
And these anomalies in Antarctica, they're also sometimes linked to the idea that Antarctica isn't just a continent, but maybe a gateway, a portal to the hollow Earth.
The hollow earth theory. Right.
Yeah.
The idea that the earth isn't solid, but has this whole inner world accessible through openings, maybe at the poles.
Exactly. And history gets pulled into this too in a weird way. These narratives often highlight that Antarctica wasn't officially discovered by Europeans until, the late 1800s. Yet you find these old maps, like the Piri map from the 1500s, that seem to show the coast of South America, and maybe the northern coast of Antarctica, without ice, which suggests to some that those map makers were copying much, much older source maps, maps from a time when Antarctica wasn't frozen over.
Implying knowledge of an ice-free Antarctica thousands of years ago, which would obviously rewrite everything we think we know about early civilization and exploration. And this feeds into the sort of grand conspiracy summary that these sources present.
Right. The authors tend to coalesce around a few core beliefs about why all this is kept secret. First, the idea that there's an international treaty, maybe the Antarctic Treaty System itself, but its real purpose is suppression, keeping this truth hidden. Second, the belief that the continent is basically warehousing Nazi tech, alien tech, or both. And it's all waiting for some future disclosure, maybe tied to a New World Order agenda.
Hmm.
And then finally, there's the really out there claim that Antarctica isn't the bottom of the globe at all, but the outer ice wall, the edge of a flat Earth.
Wow. Okay. It is pretty remarkable how many different fringe theories seem to converge on Antarctica, isn't it? So just to recap for everyone listening, we've touched on the physical stuff, that huge 4,150-foot pyramid versus the geological nunatak idea. We looked at the alleged hidden history Operation High Jump, a supposed alien war, and the modern claims of a cover-up Google Earth blurring that massive tunnel, the Aldrin incident.
And what's really crucial here, especially for you if you're trying to learn about this, is that stark contrast. The source material forces a choice, almost. Do you stick with the established geology and history, solid ground, so to speak, or do you lean into these pretty extraordinary claims of hidden ancient engineering, military clashes with UFOs, and a massive ongoing information cover-up? Because, a simple rock peak, a nunatak, and a 10 times Giza-sized alien pyramid, they can't both be true in the same spot.
Yeah. Which brings us back to where we started with the Admiral Byrd quote. There are deep wells of strength that are never used. If these sources are suggesting those wells of knowledge, of history, maybe even technology, are being deliberately kept from us, well, it makes you wonder what deeper well of suppressed history might actually be hidden under all that ice. And maybe more importantly, what's the real cost to all of us of keeping that information secret? Definitely something to think about long after this deep dive is over.
Indeed. Lots to ponder.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.